StrayAllDay.com.
You're now tuned into the show where you learn discipline to show up day after day to do the work, confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques, all underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is, we are getting into part three. Part three of this series. That is the false beliefs that you have around finances that are keeping you broke. Now, I've already given you a background on this, so I don't have to give you too much background. But before we get into the material, let me remind everybody that I send out a daily motivation text message every single day, free of charge, to everybody in my text community. You want to get this message because let me tell you what it's going to do. It's going to have you focused, sharp, and on point every single day to start your day. So all you got to do to get this message is text me right now. Just let me know you want to be getting it. And my number is 305-384-6894. So send a text to that number right now. And every single day, starting tomorrow, when I send out the daily motivation, you'll be getting that message free of charge, again, straight to your phone. Secondly, Work on Your Game University. That is the place. If you never heard of it, that's the place where I do all my coaching. That's the place where I do all of my that's where I have all of my courses. That's the place where I do all of my direct training. And that is the only place you can get direct access to me on a consistent basis, where you can share with me your challenges. You can tell me what you have going on and get direct feedback from me all the time as a member of Work on Your Game University. So if you have not joined the university yet, do so by going to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Again, workonyourgameuniversity.com. Both of those things that I just mentioned, the number and the university link, are down below in the description to this video. So with that said, now let's get into the material, which again is, we are on part three, if my math is correct here, of this series of the false beliefs that you have around money that are keeping you broke. Let's get into it by going straight into point number 7. Point number 7 says, it is too late to start because I am already stuck in my ways. This is the mindset. Any of you who says it's too late to start anything. No, actually, let me not say anything. There are some things where it probably is too late to start. You should probably not try to become an NBA player if you're 43 years old. All right. So some things that it is kind of too late to start, but it doesn't mean you can't play basketball. You're probably not going to make it to the NBA, but you probably ain't going to play basketball. You can still play basketball. So this is the mindset as a general rule. Just get the spirit of this point. This is the mindset of the defeated person who feels like there is no use in trying because a whole bunch of time has passed up to this point, whatever you consider to be a whole bunch. Understand that, first of all, it is not my aim to convince you otherwise. All right, if you think that it's too late for you to try to do something, I'm not here to try to convince you that it's not too late to try to do something. If you think it's too late, all right, I am not in the convincing business. I'm not in the business of changing people's minds. And I believe I have an episode of this podcast where I've talked about that. And if I don't, then I'll probably do one at some point. It was episode 1669. You are not in the business of changing people's minds. Also, episode 1645, how to not change people's minds. So if you haven't listened to those two episodes, make sure you go check them. They are listed down below in the description. Also, every episode in the history of the show, you can listen to by going to workonyourgamepodcast.com. So it's not my aim to convince you otherwise, but if you're open-minded to it, here's what I'll tell you. All right, and you can do with this what you choose. First of all, it's never too late to start anything. Now, there are certain accomplishments and certain places where people get to make decisions about your worthiness or eligibility that maybe it might be too late just based on the time that has passed or whatever they consider to be their parameters. But to start doing something is never too late. It's never too late to start a business. It's never too late to pick up a new hobby. It's never too late to teach an old dog new tricks, metaphorically speaking. It's never too late to get started in something. Now, again, something that involves another person's decision, now that is a different story. But to just get started and get involved in anything, it's never too late to do that. Okay, as long as you accept that, you can get started on anything. If you are able to have a thought that it is possibly too late to do something, what does that mean? That means that you must be alive and breathing because you're thinking, right? Dead people don't think, which means that you're thinking something. That means you have an opportunity to do something. If you can think something, you can do something, right? Remember, be, do, have. Being is the thinking part. Doing is the action. Now, while you may lament the time that has been used, or if you want to call it wasted, or let's just say not utilized effectively in your past when it comes to anything, when it comes to, let's say, relationships. Let's say you're at a certain point in your life and you're like, man, I've never had a meaningful, intimate relationship with a man or a woman, and now you're feeling kind of down on yourself because of that truth. Well, okay, you can feel down on yourself. It doesn't mean you can't still have a relationship. If you feel bad because you love music and you never really dedicated yourself or really gave it a real shot, and now you're 38 or you're 57, and now you're like, well, I might as well not even try because so much time has passed. Hey, you can think that, but there's nothing saying, there's no rule or law that says you can't get started right now. If you're a certain age, whatever age you consider, and you say, well, man, I've never owned a home, or I never really got serious about finance, or I never really paid attention to money like that, and now I'm hearing these things that other people are saying and things that I'm reading about money, and now I'm thinking I might want to get serious about money, but you feel kind of sheepish about it and embarrassed about it because you're not as far along as other people, maybe your age or maybe less than your age, because they've been doing it a lot longer than you, and you're saying, well, what's the use, because now I'm going to look dumb because I'm this old person, whatever old is to you relative to other people, and now I'm just getting started and they've been in the game for so long. So then you're deciding that maybe you shouldn't even get started. You can make that decision if you want, but I'm making sure that it's being said that just because you are doing something quote unquote late, whatever late is for you, does not mean is anything wrong with you. It doesn't mean you can't get started. Let's say you are starting late. So what? It doesn't mean you can't start. It'd be better to start late than to start never. Would you agree? So you can lament that you have not used time effectively in your past at whatever points, and you might be right. But that has nothing to do with the present, has nothing to do with the future. The past does not equal the present. The past does not equal the future. As long as you're alive, you have an opportunity to do something, even if that something means generating more money for yourself, because that's the topic here. There are myriad stories of people who started businesses and became financially successful at more advanced ages. Whatever, again, this is all relative. Some people might think if you're 22, you might think 30 is an advanced age. And if you're 35, you might think 50 is an advanced age. And if you're 50, you might think 80 is an advanced age. So it's different for each one of us depending on where we are. For example, Colonel Sanders, who started the Kentucky Fried Chicken Company, which all of us have heard of. Colonel Sanders was in his 60s when that business started, in his 60s, which is some of you are not even half that age. And that's when he started Kentucky Fried Chicken. I was just reading this story on social media today that the woman who started Orange Theory Fitness, everybody heard of that company, Orange Theory, the gym? And I've never even been to an Orange Theory Fitness, but let me see if I can find this because I just saw it today. Let me see if I can find the post that somebody had posted. I know some people who have worked in Orange Theory, but I don't know. I've never actually been to an Orange Theory gym or done a workout. So this woman was named Ellen Latham. I think she might still be alive. I'm assuming she's still alive. So Ellen Latham, this is the story. She suffered a major career setback at age 40 because she got fired from her dream job. She was working as an exercise physiologist at a high-end spa in Miami, here in Miami where I am. And she was devastated, but she didn't give up. 14 years later, so I don't know what she did in this 14-year period, so don't ask me. You go find this out on your own. 14 years after she got fired from her dream job, here's what Ellen did. She started Orange Theory Fitness. And Orange Theory is according to this, what I'm reading here, a science-based fitness franchise that now has over 1 million members, does $1 billion in sales, and has 1,200 studios around the globe. And later on in this person who posted this said that it's widely believed that a lot of successful entrepreneurs, and I'm just using this as an example because a lot of people, when they think of money and making a lot of money, you think you need to do it in an entrepreneurial way, which can be true. That many successful entrepreneurs are young people, like Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg. They were all in their 20s when they launched what would become these world-changing companies that they started. Being Bill Gates started Microsoft, Apple, and Facebook/Meta, respectively. But research shows that among the top 0.1% of startups, that's 0.1% of startups, based on growth in their first 5 years, the founders started those companies on average at age 45. All right, and that's the reason why I'm bringing this all up. Person who started Orange Theory Fitness was 54 years old. She had a dream job, got fired at 40. I don't know what she did in the 14 years after she got fired, but by age 54, she was probably trying to start a bunch of businesses, and she finally figured it out at age 54 and started Orange Theory Fitness. So I don't think there's anything that's stopping any of you from getting started at just figuring out how to make more money or activating what you already have learned about how to make more money in your business right now. Or in your life right now, in your life being a business. Too late is relative, and it is merely an opinion. It is not an objective fact. So you can choose to accept this, or you can choose not to, and continue believing what you believed up to this point. But I would assume that if you're listening to this, and you've been listening to the first two parts of this series, and you're listening to this one right here, that you are open to doing something different in your life, and that starts with thinking something different. And that's the part that I'm getting to here. That's why this series is called False Beliefs, not false activities, but false beliefs. Because if we can't get the mental garbage out of your head, you're not going to do anything different anyway. Moving on to point number 8. We are talking here false beliefs that you have around money and finance that are keeping you broke. Number 8, I am not good with money, so that's why I never have any money. And when I do get money, I lose it. All right. How many of you have this mindset? These are people who might have you may consider yourself a spender. You like to spend money a lot. Nothing wrong with spending money. As long as you got it, you can replace it. And if you have this mindset that I'm not good with money, so therefore you're not going to try to get good with money because you're used to not being good with it. See, this may actually be true. That not the whole point, but the point that when you get money, you find a way to get rid of it. And maybe you have been terrible with money. Maybe you have done some things that were not smart with money in your past. Maybe you are good at getting rid of money whenever you get it, in whatever way you get rid of it. And maybe that's the reason why you have never been able to hold on to or multiply or grow money. Maybe these are actually true. And the reason why these are true, you know why this is true? Because you simply do not have skill when it comes to money. You just don't have the ability to do with money maybe what you are thinking you could or should do with it. This can be 100% accurate. And it's actually a good thing if you're able to admit this, assuming that what you're saying is actually true. All right. Now, if you're saying this and it's not true, then that's not a good thing. But let's say if it's true, this is good. Good news about this truth is that you can change the situation by simply working on your game and developing skills with your money. That's all you got to do. Work on your game and develop skills with money. The good thing about a concept like money is that it's not a new thing, and there is myriad material out there and a bunch of people out there who talk about this at even deeper levels than what we're talking about here on this show when it comes to how you're managing your money and how you are using your money, how you can utilize, how you can grow, how you can expand, and how you can hold on to your money. That no one here has the excuse of ignorance. Now, if you are ignorant around these things, the good news is a quick Amazon search, Google search, a quick trip to the library can help solve your problem of ignorance in a extremely short period of time, as long as you are willing to invest the time into, first of all, going and looking for what you need, and then actually consuming what you need, and then actually applying what you learn. Now, those are some big ifs, because a lot of people these days are, to put it simply, a lot of you are just lazy. A lot of people are just lazy when it comes to anything that you say that you're serious about. People just aren't willing to do the work. And this is one of the main reasons why people don't achieve. I talked about this in episode 2568. The title of that episode is The Problem You Are Lazy as Fuck. That's the title of the episode 2568. So if you haven't listened to that, go listen to it. And some of you, the only thing in your way right now for whatever it is that you want to achieve, or at least you say you want to achieve, but you're not achieving, is that you're fucking lazy. And that's why you're not achieving. So if you're able to admit that, at least now you can do something about it because you're conscious about the issue. You can do something about it. Doesn't mean you will. You can, by developing skills in that area, specifically what we're talking about in this series, which is money. First step to developing any skills, understanding that you don't have it. First step to getting good at something is realizing that you're not good. Because people who think they already have a skill, or you don't see the value in developing a skill, you will not do the work to get better at something because you think you already got it. You think you already got that thing handled, then you're not going to do anything. I remember there was this basketball player years ago. This had to be, what year was this? This had to be maybe 2009, 2010. This is around the time when I would actually train basketball players. So down here in Miami, there's a young man. He was either in high school. I don't remember if he was in high school or college at this point because I trained him a little bit of both. And whatever year he was, he was a ball player, and his main thing was he was an outside shooter. He was a pretty good outside shooter, this kid. He wasn't really a good ball handler, was not very good at driving to the basket and finishing at the rim, but he was good at shooting the outside shot. His ball handling was adequate enough that he could take maybe 1 or 2 dribbles and he could shoot the jump shot. His main thing was he liked to shoot the jump shot. And I remember I was training him once, and I wouldn't do this now. If I was a trainer now, I would do things differently. But back then, this is how I would do it. I would ask him what he wanted to work on. All right. So I asked him what he wanted to work on. And naturally, he wanted to work on the thing that he was pretty good at, which was shooting the outside shot. So he just wanted to shoot the outside shot. So we're doing that, and we're working on his outside shot. And I said, well, hey, why don't we work on some other parts of your game, like the parts that are not as good as your outside shot? Because that was the best thing he was good at. He was not a good defender. He was not good at driving. He was not good at handling the ball. He wasn't good at finishing at the rim. But he never wanted to work on those. He just wanted to work on his outside shot. And I remember saying to him, because I was saying, all right, what are we going to work on now? We were about halfway through the session. We had been just doing the outside shot. He was like, yeah, I just want to keep working on shooting. And I was like, well, what about the rest of your game? He was like, well, it's good. It's okay. And I could tell he was getting a little bit defensive and defiant about it, because he felt like, or at least he was saying in that moment, he was saying, well, the rest of my game is okay. I don't need to focus on that. I want to focus on this, because he had convinced himself that the rest of his abilities were adequate enough so that he could just focus on the thing that he was wanting to focus on. Now, again, as I said, if I was doing things now, I would do things differently than how I handle things with this kid at that particular time. But he was deluding himself. He was not good at those other areas. And as I saw him, go through the rest of his basketball career, he never developed any of these other skills. He never got good at defense. He never got good at driving. He never got good at dribbling. His skill, as far as he went in basketball, was his ability to shoot. He never really got good at any other aspect of the game. I'm bringing all that up to say to you all, and many of you are just like this. You have a couple areas where you are sufficient. You have other areas where you are wildly deficient, but you have conditioned yourself to believe that you're okay in those areas in which you know you're not okay. Actually, you might not know that you're not okay. If we gave you some truth serum, you would admit that you're not okay. If someone who knows stuff looked at you, they would say, in those areas, you're garbage. That's what I used to tell ball players. Some of you are just garbage in certain areas of the game. And if you don't admit that you're garbage, you're not going to do any work to fix the fact that you're garbage. And that garbageness is going to cost you at some point when you come up against somebody who's going to exploit that weakness against you. And some of you right now are garbage in certain aspects of life in which you will not admit that you're garbage. And that's the reason why you can't move forward, because you won't admit that you lack skill. So if you have sucked in the past at, for example, holding on to money, if you are garbage at holding on to money, or garbage at multiplying money, or garbage at saving money, or garbage at turning money into more money, well, the good news is there's plenty of material out there to help you fix the fact that you're garbage. But if you're not willing to admit that you're garbage, you're not going to do any work to fix it. So some of you might be looking at this or listening to me right now and saying, well, Dre, damn, you're kind of like shaming people about this. And it's not specifically about this subject of money, because as I told you, I used to tell basketball players this exact same thing. And when it came to mindset, I would tell people this. When it comes to running your business, I tell people this exact same thing. And some of you would say, well, but that's even worse, Dre. You're shaming people about areas in which they're deficient. And my answer to that is, you goddamn right, I'm shaming you. That's exactly what I'm doing. Shame and public embarrassment. And you can't be publicly embarrassed, because I'm not talking to you specifically. I'm just talking in general. But shame and embarrassment, folks, are great motivators to action. So any of you who has, and I know the world that we live in now is getting more and more soft, more and more weak, more and more, as we men like to say, pussified. And all you get what I mean when I use that term. These things seem to be things that these days people are trying to shun and run away from and make it socially unacceptable. All right, it will never be socially unacceptable over here at Work on Your Game. You come into the Work on Your Game world, you being embarrassed or shamed about something in which you are deficient, where there is no excuse for you being deficient. Okay, if you want to call it you're being shamed, okay, let's call it that. All right, I'm shaming you. All right, I accept and admit that I'm shaming you. Why? Because the shame and embarrassment that you feel for something that you're deficient at, that you have no excuse to be deficient, it is more likely to move you to action than someone giving you a pat on the back or giving you some false compliment in an area in which you don't deserve a compliment because you ain't got any skills. All right. Any area in which you ain't shit, you don't deserve a compliment. You don't deserve encouragement. You don't deserve motivation. You need to be shamed because motivation and compliments and encouragement, what has that done for you up to this point? Nothing. Look at your skill set. You don't have any skills. So you should be shamed. You should be happy that somebody shamed you. You should thank the person who shamed you and actually doing something. Now, you won't thank them in the moment that they shamed you because you probably are feeling negative about it and negative towards them for what they said. But 5 years from now, you should go back and thank them. Hey, I appreciate you doing what you did because I needed to hear that. You told me what I needed to hear, not what I wanted to hear. Many of you could use the slap upside the head much more than you could use the pat on the back. Everybody understand what I'm saying here? I talked about this in episode 2561. The slap in the face that you need. In other words, it was about how you need to stop softening reality. Many of you, in certain aspects of life, actually every single one of us is a better way of saying it. Let me say this more plainly. Every single one of us could use a slap in the face much more than we could use a pat on the back in at least one aspect of our lives. Every single person listening to this right now, every single one of us, including myself, we can use a slap in the face more than we can use a pat on the back. Why? Because a slap in the face will wake us the hell up. A pat on the back doesn't wake you up. It keeps you in a sleepwalking state of continuing to do the same thing, even though that thing ain't working. And in the Business Builder framework and Work on Your Game University is one of the resources where you can at least get started on getting your mind right around the way that you're thinking about, the way you're operating regarding money. Let's move on. Point number 9. We are here in the next part of this series on false beliefs you have that are keeping you broke. Number 9, investing, which is a way of generating money, is complicated, risky, and only for people who have millions of dollars or thousands of dollars. Whatever amount is more than what you got. All right, this is a false belief. Investing is complicated, risky, and only for people who have X amount of dollars. And that X amount is more than what you have. Okay, this is a belief that many people have had because it was passed down to you from prior generations who did have real tangible barriers to getting involved in something such as investing, at least at the levels that we have access to today. Now, let me tell you all something that maybe some of you know. Some of you know this very well. Some of you don't know this at all. Technology, specifically through the internet, has virtually removed all barriers to entry when it comes to something like investing. I'm addressing this specific point. When it comes to investing, barriers to entry have completely been removed based on technology and the internet. Now, the internet is not all 100% perfect, but in this particular aspect, it is amazing. The information on how to get involved in investing, the people who know how to do it, your ability to actually do it, even from the comfort of your own home right now, while you're listening to me, are openly available to every single person who's listening to me at this exact minute. You have a smartphone. Every one of you has a smartphone. You have access to the internet. All of you have that. You can get involved in investing. You can become an investor right now, a financial investor, with $5 out of your bank account in the next 5 minutes. That is absolute fact. I sent out an email a few weeks ago, and depending on where you are in my email automations, you may have gotten it more recently or more further back. But I gave you links to many of my recommendations around business, health, money, other things, including a link to an app that allows you to get involved in investing with, again, $5. Yes, $1, 2, 3, 4, $5 out of your bank account. You become an investor right now. You'll like that link, just text me. My number's down below in the description, 305-384-6894. You can get started as an investor right now. And you can buy into any publicly traded company that is available on the stock market at this exact moment today. So any of you can involve in investing. That's not millions of dollars. It's not thousands of dollars, not even $100. It's literally $5. Now, investment was traditionally, given who you learned about money from, or if you learned anything, it was traditionally looked at as something only available to the privileged or people who had a lot of money, or they had to have some kind of insider access, and you had to have a certain amount of money to play with. You had to have, if you don't have at least this much money, you can't get involved in investing. There was a time in our parents' generation that, yes, that was the situation. So if you didn't have that amount of money, you couldn't get in the game. That time's over, folks. And the reason why I brought up know the past and who taught you about money, if they taught you anything. The reason I'm bringing this up so often is that most of the time our mindsets and our thoughts around money are things that we inherited from other people. They aren't things that we went out and learned on our own. We didn't go out and get knowledge and say, okay, here's where I am about money. No, we just inherited that knowledge from whoever was around us, and the people were around us were broke and poor-minded. Well, guess what you are? All right, do you think that's a coincidence? So while your parents might have thought like that I can't get in the game because I don't have that much money, and with good reason, they had a good reason to think like that. You don't have the same reason. All right, their reason ain't the same as your reason. 30 years ago, we were sitting at the kitchen table. We were eating dinner. We always ate dinner as a family when I was growing up. My mother, father, sister, and myself. And they were on TV. The news was talking about Democrats and Republicans. I said, "Mom, are we Democrats or Republicans?" And then my parents always voted. They would always vote. There was a polling place right across the street from our home. My mom said she thought about it for a second. She said, "We're Democrats." Well, she didn't think about it that hard. She said, "We're Democrats." I said, "Why are we Democrats?" Now she thought about this one for a second because she had to come up with an answer. Her answer was because Republicans only work for the rich people. All right. So by deductive reasoning, I knew what we were. All right. So I want you to understand. All right. You probably got a lot of your beliefs around these things from the people who you were around, but you don't have to think like that because your circumstances are not the same as theirs. All that said, let's recap today's class, which is the next part of this series. I'm not even going to keep trying to keep up with the number of the series, but I told you this would be a 7 or 8 part series on false beliefs you have around money that are keeping you broke. Number 7, it's too late to start. I am stuck in my ways. Now, if you want to believe that, go ahead and believe it. I'm not in the business of changing your mind, but if you are open to changing your mind, understand that just because you're starting something later than maybe you would have wanted to, or later than somebody else did, that has no bearing on the fact that you can still start. Number 8, I'm not good with money, so I never have any, and when I get it, I lose it. Listen, this may very well be true. You may suck with money. You may be garbage at being good with money. Good news is when you realize that you're garbage at something, the good news is you can do something about it. You can at least change it now that you recognize that you're garbage. But if you're garbage at something and you won't admit that you're garbage, then you probably won't change it. So admitting that you have a problem is the first step to fixing the problem. All right. Number 9, investing is complicated, risky, and only for people who have millions of dollars. Investing is not complicated. It can be risky. Yes, it is risky because when you invest, you might lose your money, but it is definitely not for people who only have a certain amount of money. If you got at least $5, you can become an investor right now. And actually, you can invest with $1 as a matter of fact, but let's just say $5. You can get started as an investor. Text me. I will send you the link to where you can get started as an investor for $5 right now. And there's an affiliate link. There's a referral bonus that I get. That's why I'm telling you to text me so I can get it. So I can get a bonus for referring you and getting you started as an investor. All right. So I'm letting you know, full disclosure. All that said, tomorrow we will move into the next step in this series of false beliefs that you have around money that are keeping you broke. Text me. Let me know the best one you got today. My number 305-384-6894 and workonyourgameuniversity.com. That's where you get access to getting coached by me, get direct access to me on live calls, and get access to all my courses like Bulletproof Mindset, Business Builder Framework, Sell Yourself, all of those and more, 40 plus courses. Workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre, all